to Creative Conversations. My name is Mia Moore, and today I am interviewing the wonderful Sally Morris. She is editor-in-chief for Swanky Mag, and I have had the pleasure of knowing her for quite a few years now, with experience working on different photo shoots and things. So I'm going to hand it over to Sally so that she can explain a little bit about what she gets up to in her creative field.
Where do I start?
Oh, that's the question.
I know. It's been many, many years. Yeah, that is always the question. Where do I start?
Yeah.
I basically got into hair and makeup many, many years ago. I started actually doing beauty when I was younger, from college, probably from the age of 17, 18, and went on to do anatomy and understanding everything in that direction, and somehow landed into networking with people, because that is the key for this industry, and made lots and lots of contacts over the years, and took the huge plunge quite late on, because we had Lucy and Toby, our son and daughter, and they were both premature babies. And we were a long time. Lucy was very bad with health reasons, and I had to put my career to the side. But anyway, I took the challenge and I decided to go back to college. And I can't remember how old I am. Not going to give my age away anyway. But I decided to go back to college as a maturer student and went into hair and makeup. And that was back up in sort of West Cheshire, Liverpool area. And at the time, we were a bit unsettled, where we were. We wanted to sort of move, change careers and stuff like that with the husband. And we decided to move down south to Bournemouth.
Brilliant.
And I took the idea of going to uni.
Wow.
So from there, obviously, I did the makeup media and performance degree, and again networked. It's many years obviously doing that, as everybody goes to uni. And that was a bit strange, because I was, 2 children going in, juggling life at home.
When everyone else is kind of
really
going there.
Really had a passion for makeup and hair. Didn't actually realise, boast my own trumpet here, didn't realise my own skill set with hair until I actually did it.
Okay.
And I loved it so much.
Wow. Did it kind of unleash like a whole other side that you didn't know about?
I didn't know, because I'd just been doing makeup. And I had a bit of hair, but not to the extent of what I was actually able to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where my sort of creative direction came through, because once I got onto photo shoots, being as bossy as I am, I ended up realising that, hey, I can actually lead a shoot here. So it then became my project, what I wanted to do. And obviously we had hand-ins and everything we needed for the projects for uni.
Yes.
And I just kind of, with me, if I do a project or I do a photo shoot, the next one's got to be better. The next one's got to be better.
Yeah.
And such is life. Everything takes over. Obviously, you dip in and out. I've had to take time off for different reasons.
Do you find that your creativity fluctuates as well? Do you ever hit like a plateau where you're thinking, I'm just in a bit of a creative rut at the moment? Does that happen to you?
100%. And I have to take a step back. And for me, what I've learned, sort of tips and techniques, the biggest key for me was research. So I could be just walking out with the family, and something, I see something, we could be in a forest and something creates a spark for me, and I had to get that back again. And course, obviously, over the years, I did fall into a pitfall, I'm not going to lie. When it was COVID, I hit rock bottom. I think most people did. It was very hard at the time, because I had gone into the industry. I was working for Sky TV. I had a lot of contracts on as a freelancer. And again, it's all who you know in the industry. So,
Definitely.
I'd do one job. Somebody would then say to me, oh, there's this shoot coming up. Can you go and work on this? And of course, it was very to then go into COVID and sort of lose my spark. I really did hit rock bottom. And most people, obviously, including yourself, you knew that I had a really bad back accident.
Yeah.
I had a back injury, and that really set me back, and that really put me down. And I think, our company now, which I'll get around to in a minute, but I'm huge for diversity, huge for mental health, anybody's, health and well-being. And
Brilliant.
I know in this industry, it is so difficult for people, whether you're a model, a photographer, doesn't matter, whether you're a makeup artist, you can just do hair. Everybody has bad days. Everybody
Absolutely.
has a bad year, a bad week. It can happen at any time. And you've just got to pull yourself really back.
Definitely.
And take a step back sometimes, take that time out.
As a creative as well, there's no right or wrong, and that's almost debilitating at times, because you almost think no one can tell me right or wrong. It's all got to come from me. And then when you're having a really difficult patch, like you say during COVID, it's trying to pull yourself back out of that again, and no one else can do it except you, because it's your ideas in your mind and you're trying to bring it back into reality again. How do you how do you tackle that? How do you motivate yourself to kind of get back into a creative mindset?
Just trying to network with people. I know I keep saying about networking. It's the biggest thing for me. I was like-minded creatives, going on to people who I admire. Over the years, many people like Tally Bookbinder was Take That's makeup artist many years ago, so I knew of her. Sam Knight, who's in the industry, always a call.
She's a busy lady.
I'm a busy lady. Sorry, that's really messed my flow up. Some Knight in the industry, people who are really sort of top of their game. I get into looking at what they're doing, because I'm sure they probably have pitfalls. They probably have, everybody does. But for me, that's how I grasp it back. And then I'll take some inspiration from that. I could just be seeing something, and then I'll be like, we need to go out for a walk. We need to go and see something. I need to see something visually. That is how I work. And most creatives are.
Seeing it in person, seeing it in the flesh. Can you think of a specific time that you saw something that ignited, say, an entire event or a photo shoot idea? Is there like a specific thing? I'd love to hear.
Okay, so you may not seen, I did a huge mohawk, and it was blue, and everybody's always still talking about it, and that sparked from going on holiday to Australia, and we were out swimming. Lucky us, we were out swimming with turtles and all of that in the lovely Sydney area, and I saw a fish, just a fish, and the blue on this fish, it was like the blue that I'm seeing on, it was like electric blue. And I thought, that is something I've got to do. And I took a snapshot of it. And the next thing, I was finding myself looking at like colour patterns, colour choices. That's where I get my inspiration from. I go on trend forecasting. And I was matching colours up to what I'd seen on this fish. And before I knew it, it was a massive project. A huge thing that we did. And that was just something so small. The other thing was Viking shoot that you and I did. So that sparked from just seeing Game of Thrones. And all of that sort of, going historically into stuff. Sparked some research off from Vikings, what they did, and thought, this is what's got to happen. And it ended up being a huge shoot.
That's amazing.
As you know.
And
it was a very eventful day.
It was. And the fact that inspiration has come from a personal experience, whether it was you on holiday swimming or you sat at home watching Game of Thrones, it's then impacted so many people, because it brought together a huge team. It was makeup artists, hairstylists, photographers, models on that shoot day, the Viking event. And I think that's what's so incredible about the creative industry, is that it can
Yeah.
spread and impact so many people. And
Mm.
I think it enhances it when we're around other creatives. It kind of lights a fire, doesn't it? You bounce off of each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And I can remember coming
Yeah.
away from that Viking event thinking, wow, I really want to do more of this. It was just so much fun. You've got freedom to act. You're becoming a different character. It was
Yeah.
almost more like a day on a film set, because you're getting into character.
It was like a mini movie.
Exactly, you're embodying the Viking characters in their homes, basically.
Yeah.
So I can remember we were in like these like mud huts, and it kind of showed you the differences in the like societies back then. And it was really inspiring in itself, seeing how these people lived, and you become part of that. And that was all down to you. That was down to your thought processes. So do you feel proud when you run an event like that it's come from you?
100%. 100%. Even down to, it's very hard sometimes as a creative to have a thought process and actually get that out, and you could put it out on paper, but to actually get it to become real, and then explain that to however many people you've got on a photo shoot. For me that day, I forget how many people were involved, but even the behind the scene, even the people not just behind the scenes, but we had all the extras, and they came out charging like they were having a battlefield. Me explaining to them what I want them to do, how they've got their, some of them were actors and stuff, but even that, that process, so that made me incredibly proud, because once you actually then see it all come together, and you've got that across to people, it's such an amazing feeling, and it's something to be proud of, but it does take a lot. Shoots like that could take 3 to 6 months in the making prior to actually come together,
I suppose
of
it's
all the
all the
elements
logistics.
that take place.
That's it, and it's trying to round everyone up.
Exactly. And I think, given what we do now, a lot of people don't realise what goes on behind the scenes. And very much, even though I go on about networking, it is still, there's all the elements that even if you go to watch a theatre show, all the creatives, all the makeup artists that don't actually get acknowledged behind the scenes, all the costume designers, everybody that's behind there. But I think where I feel like I fall differently now with the magazine company is the fact that I've done that job. I've been in that role. I've been behind the scenes.
You've worked your way up.
It's all them people behind to see them all come together. And you're not just putting on a show and going, oh, wow, because, any photo shoot, anything like what we did on this Vikings shoot that we did, that took a whole day for us to do all that photography event and the filming. And then when the film comes out at the end, it could only be 2 or 3 minutes long.
Exactly.
And this is the same for the people now that are in the creative industry that are watching TV commercials. You could have a model that is doing, a Rimmel advert, and they're on the TV for all of 30 seconds, but the production and the making of all that behind scenes. So where I sit right now is because I've done it for so long, I'm trying to educationally bring what I know, take it to the table and teach the younger generation coming through.
That's brilliant.
Guidance to models, guidance to, obviously we have the magazine business, but the aspects of students in now, that's a big thing for me, because it's very, very difficult. I feel like it's getting harder for younger people to gain experience.
Definitely.
They may go to university and they can't actually then, they can't get a role or a job because they say, they apply for something and they say, well, you can't do it because you've not got the experience. So I'm trying to bridge that gap at the moment.
That's
I'm
so important.
100%.
Really
and the same for models as well. It could be somebody who's, just starting out in the industry, and they're trying to build their portfolio up.
Yeah.
So I'm very much for helping people and sort of help people to sort of get that balance of where they need to be in their portfolio.
Think you have a natural talent in uniting people together, and again, people from all kinds of different like avenues within the creative industry.
Yes.
Which leads me on to the magazine company. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what that means. What's it called? Where has this developed from?
Okay, so we are the Swanky Media Group. It wasn't always the Swanky Media Group. It just started out as one solo magazine as Swanky Mag 5 years ago. And again, this came off the back of, as I said, me having a back injury, kind of flipped the role, if you like, because I couldn't do, the makeup artist side, the hair, I couldn't do all of that. And I thought, I knew people in the industry, and obviously I'd been on so many photo shoots, and I, luckily for me, knew editor friends, and it was just, I knew I wanted to stay within the creative industry. I just didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because it was so challenging for me at the time. So I did a few courses, extra things that I needed to do. When I say that, I mean things like, Photoshop, InDesign, things that maybe a photographer would be looking at rather than a makeup artist, and built all my skills, many skills of what I needed to do while I was in recovery. And obviously then launched the magazine. And it was challenging to start with, but we've since built up this huge company now. Year after year, we've just ended up bringing more and more magazines out. We do every genre you can possibly think of.
It's amazing. It's just endless.
It's crazy now. It is endless. It goes on and on. And we now sort of have people all over the world working for us. So, we've got people over in Australia, people in New York, and then we get to attend all the press and press releases and things like that. So red carpet events. We get to work in amazing hotels. We're doing every week, every day is different.
Yeah, you're living the life of luxury, Sally.
I'd love to think so. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard work.
I don't doubt that at all.
But we have a great team, and I think one thing is with me is it's the sort of time management of everything, and I've done that many photo shoots and stuff that I know the flow of how things have got to work at what time. So I've brought that sort of that management to what I know, and utilised my skill set from what I've had over the years.
Excellent.
And then we just we get to go backstage now. We go on the fashion shoots. We take models with us on runways. We do photo shoots for ourselves.
Yeah.
Photo shoots for other brands. It's just endless. It never stops.
Yeah.
And so we then became the Swanky Media Group because we needed an umbrella to hold all the
to cover everything,
because they're not all named Swanky. Yeah. So we do even bringing in like the nature side of things, and that goes back to what I was saying. It all interlinks. Me looking at nature from that fish shoot, and we've now got a magazine that is just wildlife.
Wow.
So the photographers who are just wildlife photographers, they submit their work.
Brilliant.
And so we've got people writing articles about nature, wildlife, and just everything in general.
Another avenue that you wouldn't necessarily think of immediately.
No. And even though that's not my forte, that's one of the team that they do.
Yeah.
So
just broadening
I guide them. Yeah, I guide them, but obviously they know all the elements that they need to add to make that magazine work.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, and every project, then everything's going on differently for the magazine, for the business. And we're now broadening it even more by everybody who gets published with us. We are making our own community hub because, again, I come back to networking. I wanted to find a place that was a home for people to sort of come on and find their magazines that they've been in with us, because we get people coming continuously back. You know, we've grown and developed our readership. So
just going into that with the community hub, do you cover all kinds of generations within that, like you say, the students that are looking to get a head start in the industry?
Every single person.
That's brilliant.
And again, the diversity, because I think it sat with me a long time ago from having my children premature. My daughter came out of that deaf, and so she struggled over the years. And, you know, being with models who may want to be models, but, you know, they've got a prosthetic leg, or somebody is, you know, they can't do it because they've got skin pigmentation, or, you know, they could be deaf, or I give everybody a chance. So the whole community platform, that is why we're going to be a community. It is our little community that we've built, and they can network with each other. The creative jobs will be on there.
It's so important, I think. And do you see patterns within those generations, as in like going from like the younger, like the makeup artists, the hairstylists, the photographers, perhaps from a younger age? Do you see a pattern in how they develop? Do they all kind of go through the same path, or does it differ for people that are older?
100%. Yeah, it does differ. You tend to find, obviously, the students and, you know, the younger generations, they kind of follow their own path. It is harder for the older ones to sort of find their way, even though they may have been doing it a long time. But they it's kind of like the whole hub brings them all, well, he's going to bring them all together. And I think it just makes everybody sort of, it's just that togetherness feeling, you know, everybody's the same.
Uniting them and showing that actually just because something's not conventional about you, or something that makes you unique and different, that doesn't mean you can't be involved. It doesn't mean that you don't have those same talents. So I think to see a media group specifically kind of covering and guiding people of all different types and genres is really, really healthy, and something that we need more of in the industry, because it can be really harsh sometimes. And I think it can, for people who perhaps don't have a huge amount of confidence when they're starting. I can remember studying makeup at college, and it was so frightening. It was like you turn up on a set, and all these people have loads of experience, and you're trying to impress and give your best example. So to have someone kind of like over you, like guiding you, I think is essential, because I feel like you get left behind. You feel you're told you've got to have more experience, and then you can go out into the bigger world and have more experiences. But you need someone to kind of say, right, do you want to go down this path, that path? So I think the mentoring side of things is almost equally as important.
100%. And that brings me to the education side of things. So obviously we touched base on a photo shoot a few weeks ago. And we just stepped in to help cover the students from the Arts University in Bournemouth. So we've just become a lecturer there to help them out now with the summer term. So they're great. They've been with me all week. They're going into a big project themselves. They're excited about it. I'm excited.
Wow.
And to see them develop from being, like you said, it's very difficult as a makeup artist it's okay putting makeup on yourself, but to pick up a brush and put it on somebody else
It's daunting.
is scary.
Really
It's
scary.
daunting. Yeah. And obviously, some of these students have come from different backgrounds even. They've gone to college. They might have studied textiles but decided to go into makeup because, it's the arts, it's what they're creatively seeing. And they've never maybe touched hair before. So, they're working on dolly heads and stuff like that. To see somebody develop from working on a dolly head to then actually working on a person and bring their skill level up.
And confidence.
To the time and confidence to the time that they're actually leaving 3 years later, and they've done full productions.
Wow.
They've done theatre training. They have the array of everything, and to see them go off into industry and actually be, that is another achievement for me, because I worked across many years. I've helped them out quite a few times now with going in, being a visiting tutor. And I've worked with the level 6s who are getting ready to go. And to see, I've known them from the first year.
Wow.
So to actually then see them go later on in level 6, and they're going out into industry, and that is another sense of achievement for me, because I think,
imagine.
wow, we all did that.
Look how far you've come.
Look how far you've come.
Yeah.
They've done it, but it's that sort of sense of achievement on our part.
Yeah.
And the mentoring, what you just said. So that's what I love the most. And I can't drum it into them enough that obviously, then that networking is their key, because they could go on to a photo shoot, and then they meet a model, and then that model then says, oh, they were a great makeup artist. And then the next thing, they've got a job from that.
Exactly.
And the younger ones, they don't know that. You wouldn't have known that when you were in college.
No, it's all about getting out there and actually experiencing it in person, isn't it? You learn so much with your hands on a job rather than sat in a lecture hall or in a classroom. Or for me anyway, I know I used to sit there and think, I wish I could just be out on a stage, like working on makeup. But I know from that photo shoot that you very kindly invited me on, the luxury edit, I worked with a fantastic makeup artist that you'd assigned me for the day, Eve. She was brilliant. And I know now that she's in my catalogue of makeup artists. So again, it's like a constant bank and an evolution for these generations coming up, and hopefully it will give them the boost and the confidence to say, you know what, I've got this, I can do this, I'm going to go forward and project this creativity. And I could see as Eve, the makeup artist, was relaxing during the shoot, that her confidence and creativity just started to shine towards the end, because it really does, and you can see it. You can actually see the visual process, and it's really quite incredible to watch.
It is, and it's also a thing of when people, new students, and even people that are new to the industry, even if you were a photographer, it's that meeting people for the first time. So like you said, she was nervous when she first came in. She knew who I was. She'd met us, but then it was like she'd never met you. And they're very nervous, and then as they get going, and that's the same for everybody. You could meet go on a shoot and meet the makeup artist and a photographer for the first time. But all of a sudden you've built a friendship there with them, and then you go on to work more, and then there's more and more, and it just evolves like that, doesn't it? So
it snowballs in the most positive way. And I think that generally is the biggest rule in the creative umbrella, is that you, as much as that you have to go out and get these experiences, a lot of it kind of falls into place, whether just by chatting, just by liking someone's image on social media, it all sparks something. And I think creative people, we just have a click, don't we? That you just get on with other creatives, I think, because you understand how difficult it can be. So if you were to give one piece of advice to somebody who wanted to get into say, a media group, something along the lines of like running shoots, what would you say is your biggest tip? What would you recommend?
Well, a lot of people start with just the idea and the concept of what they want to do. And if I say it as a makeup artist point, then I think if they look at what it is what avenue they want to be in, first of all, because obviously within makeup you could go down prosthetics, you could go down fashion, you could just be an all-rounder. And I think if that helps, tip number one, knowing what you kind of feel like, where you fit your people. I knew I was fashion, I knew that's where I sat. And so once that you've got that underpinned, you then look at if there's a Pacific runway on, or there's a big show like Victoria's Secrets or something, and then start to look at getting involved in that. How can I do this? Where can I begin? Okay, because somebody probably needs help somewhere. And on websites and stuff like that, a lot of runway shows. And again, now this falls into place for models and photographers, but they do put out castings for models, and and really try and get involved. Just see, if you're just starting out, see where you sit, and then what you can get involved in, and if that person or that company says no to start, they're full, or no, there's nothing available, try again in 3 months' time. Try again in 6 months' time.
Make yourself known
until they get to know who you are.
Absolutely.
We've known many people, not just our company now, but over the years I've known many people, and that's how I used to do it. Was I don't take no for an answer, really. You just think, well, okay, if are they just, is their team full? What is the reason? And if they give you a no, don't just think, well, that's it, I'm going to leave it, they don't want me, or they don't want my portfolio. Ask them the reason why.
Feedback,
could you give me some feedback? Could you, if you're a model and asking an agency, because you can reflect on that. You can sit and actually think, okay, so even as a makeup artist, I was only teaching the students this yesterday, saying, you build your portfolio, and maybe you've got, not enough ethnicity in your showcasing in your portfolio. So, ask them for the feedback, and that's the sort of feedback that we give to portfolio review. And we'll say, go away, do a bit more, and then come back to us.
Brilliant.
Because, they are showcasing a different skill set of what they can do then.
And broadening as well.
And broadening, definitely.
Would you say that, as somebody, say, we're talking about like the younger generation, so college, university students, would you say that perhaps doing some voluntary work, getting into a creative avenue is helpful? Or do you feel as though it can be detrimental sometimes?
No, I definitely think if they can try and volunteer, as I said before, it is very difficult for people, because I think when they get to university level and they're coming away with a degree, they're sort of asking for jobs in the industry, and the industry's saying no to them. So they've hit a brick wall. Whereas I think if they'd have actually maybe have volunteered from day dot in college, before they obviously get to level 3, and then their tutors are saying to them, you can go to university and carry this on. I think if there's a local theatre company, or there's, we're fortunate in Bournemouth to obviously have the BIC and places like that. So, if they know there's a theatre production, okay, so who is that theatre production? And, try and get in that way.
How can I get involved?
And even if you are a makeup artist and all you're doing at the moment is assisting somebody else, or just going and getting them coffee.
Exactly.
You're running around backstage. you've kind of got your foot through the door because you're still volunteering. That's something that you can say you've been behind set and you've actually done something.
Yeah, you worked on it with them.
So exactly. So, and I think if they can do that from the get-go, then, you know, that would probably work better for their CV over
rather
time,
than getting to a point where they're
back.
where they're qualified and then struggling to find work. I can remember being at college, and I think I was so excited by getting out there and trying different methods of makeup and hairstyling, and I would actually write letters to the local theatre groups and the amateur drama groups at community centres and at schools, and I would say, can I come along just during one of your like practice sessions, reading through the script? And it gave me a skill to understand how script writing worked and how to read a script, and how, as a makeup artist, I had to utilise different cues on the script. So even if it wasn't directly makeup related during that session, I was still getting something from it. And again, I mean, I can talk for England, so I was just nattering to anyone and everyone in the room. And things just led on from that, and I then went on to do a lot of work in bigger places, because your name is known and they can see that you're keen and wanting to get more from it, which I feel like
you've got that passion and the drive there to
which I think a lot of the younger generation are probably quite afraid of showing at that age, or they're unaware of how to do that. So someone like yourself who's able to guide them and be at the university and show them that actually you have got the confidence, you've just got to get out there and do it. As soon as you break the ice and you've got your foot through the door, you've got it. And that passion will come through and guide you, basically.
100%. I think also, you know, it goes far back for me, you know, with having, you know, kids that are now much older, but even going this far back, you know, it's difficult with, you know, age, what they're allowed to work at what age. But, you know, even if they are just, we've had a lot of runners on our photo shoots. And, you know, they're just older than school age, or they're just 17, you know, they've just started college, and, you know, or they could even just have been on an apprenticeship doing something completely different, and they've just come along as a runner for us, you know. And what I mean by a runner, for people who don't know, but, you know, they are, you know, they're helping with the garments, they're bringing everything in, they're packing everything away, you know. I think it's just a big crew, you know. I need that crew because I'm front of house and they're all the back of the house. And you know, they're getting everything ready, they're getting all the garments and dresses, and they could be helping the makeup artist get all their kit in, and, you know, they're getting all the food ready. There's so much going on for a runner's job. But when they actually come on that, they then, I'm thinking of one, I won't name her, but one Pacific girl that came on with us, and she just applied for the job as a runner. And she came on the shoot, and when she actually saw what we did, she was like, how do I get to that? How do I do to get to that? You know,
that's amazing.
And she didn't actually realise that her passion was in photography. Like, that's where she kind of was going to lie, and she didn't know at the time. And it's obviously sparked something for her just from being a runner.
That's just being in that environment.
In that environment, I need to know how I've got to get to that. And she came to me a bit later on, and I said, look, obviously we're very busy today, but, you know, we can speak about it. And we gave her sort of the blueprint of how to get there. And she went on to college, she went on to do, you know, and she's gone on and done a master's in photography now.
That is brilliant.
So it's insane, you know.
So you are literally,
I absolutely love that.
You are literally paving the way for the younger generation of creatives, which I think is amazing. It's so important as well, because I think getting into the side of like social media and the dreaded AI that everyone's talking about, I think it's a real asset to be able to say that you're teaching people. It's almost like when you have people that knew blacksmith skills 100 years ago. It gets lost somewhere along the lines when things are replaced and bigger machines come in. You know, it's the same thing. It's trying to keep that ember firing, you know, keep it going and keep it relevant. And I think actually you, as part of Swanky Media, you're current, you keep up with trends, which keeps you relevant and it keeps you up to date working with the younger generations. So you always know, and again, you mentioned the trend forecasting earlier, so you always know what's wanted
ahead,
exactly
2 years ahead. You know,
absolutely.
And we know designers' new work coming through. Again, you know, going back to that, you know, I'm not just biased as the university that I'm at, but all the universities all over. You know, we've been on we've been on runways where they have, community runways now within the UK, and they've had like designers on the runway, but then they always bring in new up and coming designers. So they'll have different university students that have just graduated, or it's their graduate collection on the catwalk. And from that, you know, we've pulled out a student that was a graduate and gone on to do photo shoots with her, ended up meeting her in Bridal London, you know, and it's just escalated from there. And now she's doing amazing as well. You know, she was doing amazing anyway before she met us. But, you know, it's that sort of bringing in new, fresh stuff, because the designers themselves as a creative, they are meeting people. They're trend forecasting in the 2 years in advance to make their collections. And when we approach them, everything's very secretive what they're doing, because obviously they're trying to not let it out, you know, what they're doing, because it's for maybe autumn winter next year. And so in a kind of bubble of their own, they don't realise that they're not they're networking, but they're trying to do their new collections, the current collections as well as the new stuff. So then it's exciting when we actually do a photo shoot that is, say, an autumn winter trend for next year, and it's got to be embargoed. And, you know, people then see that, you know, when it actually comes out, it's like, oh wow, we did that, but then you've got to remember how long ago we did that.
And you're thinking, I knew that trend.
25, and it's a 27 collection, you know. But we knew that trend. But it's that's really interesting to see that, you know, they, you know, we meet so many designers along the way, and some of them have gone on to do amazing things. You know, Kay Walk did Beyonce's last tour. She opened up with Beyonce's stuff, so we'd already prior seen Kay Walk and done a press release and dealt with her, and then she went on to do that. So we then got again, and that was all the networking, because we know who's who. So but yeah, we get, and I'm a very much as well, not just about big brands like Chanel, Dior, you know, we work with, you know, mainstream, Matalan, you know, we work with F&F, Tesco's, you know, just what as sort of, you know, working people would just go and pick up from the local supermarket.
That's the masses, in theory. That is the majority. So you're reaching 100%. A huge market of people there that are seeing your work, which I think is amazing. And it's like when you go into a supermarket and you may see an advert, or going past a shop front of like a big chain, and you see the images, and that's the sort of work that you're doing. You're reaching all of these people and making it accessible, which I think is so important, especially in today's climate.
For them to understand.
Definitely.
Because obviously you've got the bigger brands who are doing, you know, like Chanel and stuff and Prada, they're doing, you know, crazy you know, crazy shoots, what you see them doing on the runways when it's fashion week. But like you said, to bring it to the masses, and sometimes, you know, we like to keep photo shoots quite simple. So, you know, a lot of people don't understand when we go to fashion shows and we kind of, it's all very glam. We get put on front row and our team can write about it and stuff like that. But, you know, we might go and see like, I don't know, a big designer over in London, just say for instance, and we'll be in London Fashion Week, we'll watch the runway, and you know press and buyers that are there. And you know full well they're press and buyers for the likes of Tesco's and stuff like that. And then it's crazy because obviously you're watching the next season, you know, what's coming out on the runway. But then when you actually see the colour trend forecasting and the colours and, you know, the trends coming through, and then you actually see them in supermarkets
in the flesh,
and so we then pull in the flesh, but in a way that is to the mass, but then we pull those colours and we're able to create a photo shoot from them colours.
That's brilliant.
If that makes sense.
So it's like, you know, an evolving trend.
It's an evolving thing.
It's like a chain process almost. It comes up from the top and then you're able to say, actually, how can we bring this and spread it to as many people as possible? But it all, again, comes from a creative point, the people who are doing the trend forecasting and doing that research. It's people like yourselves who are then able to spread it and get it out there for more people to take inspiration from. And
it goes so quick as well. It goes so fast. You know, the whole process, you know, just being in our media aspect, you know, you're working on something 1 minute and it could be a denim trend, and then you're on something else, you know.
It's almost it's like a visualization of the creative brain going about 100 miles an hour.
50 mile an hour, 100 mile an hour.
Oh, I like this idea. I love denims. I want patterns.
We're going to pull this out. It's all going to happen this fast. And it does, and that's what happens. And before you know it, you're thinking about something else. And it's it as a creative person, anybody who's got that creative mind, your brain is constantly on that gauge, constantly.
Can't keep up with it.
I can talk, but I could be talking to you and I'm actually now thinking, oh, that blue in the background's very nice.
You're thinking, what could I do with that?
What can you do with that? And that anybody who realises, anybody who's in that will understand.
Absolutely.
Because that's how you feel.
They'll sympathise. They'll sympathise with those racing thoughts.
Sympathise. But it's I do love the trend forecasting. Absolutely love it. That's part of the aspect of the business that I love the most. You know, I love the team's great, but I love, you know, seeing what all the new stuff is coming through because it's exciting, you know. And you're seeing collections and stuff like that nobody else has seen yet.
Exactly.
And you're getting invited to, you know, press things in different areas and across the globe. You can't always attend, but I'd love to be. Many of me.
Spread all over the place, all at once.
Spread all over the place. One everywhere. But that'd be fantastic. It's really good. It's very interesting and very sort of dynamic as to all the different things that get brought into what we do.
That's brilliant.
And it can be stressful, but you know, we do, as I said, as a business, we brought in understanding upstairs. We called it as a health and wellbeing. And so you know, we know that the people who work for us, they're creative brains too, you know, and it's like a roller coaster constantly. So, you know, everybody's constantly putting their inputs in, you know, what they think and, we should do this, we should do that. And I think that's what makes us work as a team, really.
Brilliant. Just brainstorming.
Because, just brainstorming.
Yeah. So
But,
to finish up, I'd like to end on one question for you. So if you were so you're talking to the next generation of creatives coming up, what is the biggest lesson you've learnt? Now I've put you on the spot now.
Yeah, you have,
Or the toughest lesson you've learned.
Lesson. Not to be so hard on yourself.
Okay.
Because it does take time to get there. It doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
Like we just said before, everything's daunting to start with. And I used to be very, very hard on myself. I find this day now, because of social media, I think the younger generations, back to the students, I wouldn't say so much competitive anymore, but I've got to be a certain way.
Yes.
This influencer is doing something, so I have to do it. And I think back in the day,
back in my day,
in the olden days, I think I was very hard on myself, and it was my biggest lesson, because I used to look at other people and think, why am I not that good? Do you know what I mean? And I was really hard on myself. And even though I've got where I've got now, you look back and reflect and think, again, what I said before, you're kind of only as good as your last piece of work.
Absolutely.
So you try and sort of evolve from that.
Yeah.
And I used to put the pressure on myself. If, I think over the years, sorry, I'm bouncing from it, but over the years, like things on like YouTube and stuff like that, as in, I used to think I had to have a big makeup artist room with lots of, do you remember all the drawers with the makeup filled with drawers? That was a big thing at the time. And I put that hard thing on myself by working harder to buy more product, because I thought I had to do that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Rather than actually using your natural instincts and mind.
Yeah, exactly. And I say to the makeup artist now that when, you'll know yourself this, being an MUA, but, you don't need to buy all them products.
No.
You could utilise an eye pencil to be a lip pencil. You can make a blusher and eyeshadow, but when you first start, you don't know that.
No.
You think you have to have everything. So as I said, there was a couple of elements that, it was overworking myself, not happening.
Yeah.
And burning myself out, and just being generally hard on myself with everything. And it was just the biggest lesson that I learned. And I thought, no, not doing that again. And also people, you can't keep everybody happy. You can't,
exactly.
Find your kind of clique of people, what I was saying before, the genre, what you may, if you're a model, you might feel like you fit into doing weddings and bridals rather than being a fashion model.
Yeah.
Just because you've had one photo shoot that might have had a slightly negative experience, or you didn't enjoy it, don't let it put you off.
Yeah.
You sort of strive to think,
just
okay, well, keep going,
That's brilliant.
And I'll do something next time.
You're exactly who I wished I had when I was just starting out in the industry. If I had a Sally, I would have done wonders, I'm sure. But what you're doing right now is really crucial to the next generation, and I think it's essential that you kind of keep no pressure, but keep the mentoring up, because I think they need that confidence. So I think
100%.
you should be really, really proud of yourself.
Like that, though.
Yeah.
Whole teams like that. Bring the next level up.
Yeah, absolutely, and help them and grow and develop. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting to you today, Sally. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
You're more than welcome.
I could just talk and talk and talk.
We could talk today,
absolutely. Just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Yeah.
So
Lovely.
I'll hopefully
Right.
see you very soon, and
You will.
we can keep the creative juices flowing.
Yeah, whether we'll actually ever get any work done because we just
Well,
talk
that's the
so much.
question. That's the
Yeah.
question. So
Okay, lovely.
thank you so much for watching Creative Conversations. It would be one last question for Sally is where can we find Swanky Media online? Just as we're signing off.
So yeah, just www.swankymediagroup.com, and obviously we're on all socials. So you can find us on TikTok, find us on Instagram. We're just Swanky Mag, and then that'll lead you to every other platform.
Brilliant. All the other genres.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
The many
brilliant.
genres, so yeah,
Yes, all of them.
lovely.
Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much. And thank
wonderful.
you, listeners and watchers, for joining us for Creative Conversations today. I'm your host, Mia Moore, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Creative Conversations was hosted by Mia Moore. It was recorded at Granary Studios, audio production by Granary Digital. Additional production support and editing by James Jones. For more information, visit our website at granary.digital. To contact the show, email podcast@granary.digital. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media.